Right, so I'm here talking about the Shaping the Scholarship project about early donations to Bodleian, as you know. So the project is based at UCL, but in collaboration with the Bodleian Libraries. Ben here is one of my UCL colleagues, though he's also at Oxford, and Rahel's done some work for the project. And the idea of the project, there's quite a few different strands to the project, but at the centre of it is this first Benefactors register that we're really looking to have, and it's incredibly detailed. And using primarily this to construct a database of donations between 1600 and 1620. So that's the first official 20 years of donations. So the database will be publicly accessible at some point this year, and it has all sorts of different information that we hope will be useful for researchers. So it includes transcriptions of the register itself, but it also includes biographical information about the donors, identifications of the books that are listed in the register, and then for some of the donations we've surveyed copies of those titles currently in the library to try and work out whether we think they're the donated copy and anything else we can tell about the book. So for an idea of scale, the register for that 20 years covers 225 separate donations made by 211 donors. So some donors donate more than once. Within those are listed, as you can see, nearly 9,000 entries that we've transcribed. From these, we've been able to identify over 10,000 titles. So that includes duplicates, because they acquired duplicates by accident quite a lot. And between this project and the previous pilot project, we've surveyed about 1,250 individual volumes and described them, and all those descriptions go into the database. So the material that I've asked to be brought out today, as I said, there's lots of different strands, but the thing I've tried to focus on today, because I thought it would be most of interest here, is that process of going from the early library records through to the physical books still in the collections today, and what that research process is. So obviously we've got the first Benefactors register, which, as I say, is really unusually detailed for a book list of this period, and you can learn more about that as you go around. But also two of the earliest catalogues that we have for the Bodleian, one a draft manuscript catalogue and one the kind of more famous first printed catalogue. What's really interesting here is that not only can you trace the donations moving through the register, through the different catalogues, and also sort of around the shelves of the library, it's that process of tracing it itself sheds light on how the Bodleian was developing its own systems of information management in this period, and the fact that they're having to they keep changing their cataloguing methods and working out how to do it because they have such an influx of books, and this becomes really influential. So that's some of the material up here, and then moving on to looking at how we can use that information to understand, to research the physical books. There's 3 books out from like this cluster. One, it has all the provenance marks, it has a gift inscription, but it also has the early shelf marks that you can cross-reference against those catalogues, which is really interesting. There's also a couple of books there that were previously bound together. One of them has a Walter Raleigh binding, but the book was not given by Walter Raleigh, so you can see basically it's been altered in the 19th century, and you can trace that process as well. And also it's a kind of like watch out when you're doing this research. And then the final books that I'm going to talk about are, there's the 2 works of James I that were given 1619, 1620. So basically it was published in 1619, but then another issue came out in 1620, and both copies were given. Again, this is, as you can see from the slide, limitations of the Benefactors register, because it's not a catalogue, it's not a finding aid, it is a tool to promote donating. So what's happened here is only one of the James I works has made it into the Benefactors register. That's the official gifted copy, and it's still the one it's brought out for the it's the treasure or whatever. And it's interesting that they only put in the one copy into the register to make it unique and valuable, whereas there were actually 2 that were given. And there's also an apocalypse that I think was given by a woman called Elizabeth Brockett in the early 17th century. I'm still working on it a little bit. I'd love to know your thoughts about the binding. And that's something that's not in the register at all. So small donations or donations by people that were comparatively not that important weren't put in the register, or sometimes stuff just got missed off. So I guess that's a good example of how the register only goes so far. So with the database, because there's been so much good work done on manuscripts for like hundreds of years, looking at provenance, and Matthew's been very helpful in giving us a lot of data from the medieval manuscripts catalogue, we can look at what does and doesn't make it into the register. With print, now that there is work starting on that, but it's kind of an earlier point in the process, and I'll be interested to see what comes out of that. Okay, and I think there's time to just, Rahel, I think, is going to introduce a book that was given in 1603.
So this is the one of the books that most impressed me. It was printed in Venice in 1601 by a Christian printer, and it's probably the first or one of the first books that credits on the title page a Jewish woman as an author, and so we know that this woman, Dvora Ascarelli, who was born in Rome around 1555, she was a poet. There are two Italian sonnets in the book written by her, and one short poem dedicated to her. And she was also involved in the translation of the Day of Atonement liturgy from Hebrew and Aramaic into Italian, and this is what she's also credited for. I have a lot more to tell about this book, about her, and my involvement in the project. So I'll be around if you have any questions. Thank you.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Is that it? Wow.